we say combat reporter, it usually brings to mind the picture of a battered, unshaven, weary correspondent trudging through the mud. Now, it may surprise you, but this lady, who has covered wars and violence and danger ever since she was 18 years old, she is a woman who has covered 7 wars in the past 5 years, and her name is Dickie Chappelle.
Ah, yes, Miss Dickie. I met her at the Marine Press Center in Da Nang. I was 23 years old, and she was 46, and she seemed to me rather motherly, and offering some good advice, and I was soaking that up.
She had to prove herself, and God knows she did. She was my hero, yes. Certainly.
It's very honorable what she did, and I'm shocked that people don't know who she was or don't even know her name.
And I had never heard of Dickie Chappelle in my entire life. And when I was actually first in the Coast Guard, one of the people that I had worked with said, hey, you got to check out this book called Brown Water, Black Beret. And in that book, there's a chapter about Dickie Chappelle. She did something that was not very common at a time where it was not easy to do what she did.
The thing that sticks in my mind is that she said, the main thing you have to always remember about covering combat is you've got to survive to get the story and the pictures out to the world. If you get killed in there, it's all for nothing.
War used to be considered a job solely for men. It didn't matter if it was fighting it or reporting about it. One of the best-known American women combat correspondents was Margaret Bourke White, the very first American female photojournalist and the first woman to work in combat zones during World War II. Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter Marguerite Higgins, best known for covering the Korean War from the front lines, also made a familiar name for herself. Perhaps lost in the shadows of these successful women was Dickie Chappelle, another gutsy woman among the first to write about and photograph men at war. It's how and why she covered war that made a difference, with troops on the battle lines, while other correspondents tended to stay in designated press centers. She put a face to those who served, sharing their personal stories along with accounts of what was really happening during combat with the rest of the country.
The sum of her core was that she really was doing this because she felt she was doing the right thing, that she was telling people things about war that they needed to know, and that she was a good person to do it, or just as good as anybody. She felt that her gender should never get in the way.
Those who knew Dickie Chappelle remember a signature uniform that complemented her petite frame, fatigues, an Australian bush hat, dramatic harlequin glasses, her beloved Leica camera, and a pair of small pearl earrings. She said she wore the earrings so as not to be mistaken for a Marine.
I believe my father gave them to her. She wanted to express the fact that she was a woman and that she was in a place where a woman was not expected to be. She never, ever asked for any quarter or any favoritism for her gender, but she was proud of her gender.
I noticed them. She never talked about them. But I think that although she was hard-bitten, tough as nails, and portrayed that aura, especially she's working in a man's world, at a man's game in combat. But she wanted to preserve just that bit of femininity. And she did.
In the end, it was much more than her gender that secured her spot in the history books. It was the often ugly result of war, killed in action. that placed her name at the top of a firsts list. 50 years ago, on November 4th, 1965, Dickie Chappelle became the first American woman war reporter killed in action, and the first female correspondent killed in a place called Vietnam.